All the cool kids had stylish Jinko jeans, and I felt so much shame about my thrift store finds. So despite being incredibly poor, I asked my mom for the first time to buy me some new clothes as the new school year started. And I knew the answer was stripes. What I couldn't achieve in brand, I could achieve in pattern, and I knew that stripes were cool. So as we walked into the discount store at the mall, I picked 5 different striped sweaters. They were so soft in a way that only new clothes are. My heart started pounding as my mom handed her credit card to the cashier. The checkout process seemed long and drawn out. My mother and I then found out at the same time that her card was rejected because it was totally maxed out. So she turned to me, her 12-year-old daughter, and asked me, "Do you still want them?" I knew what my mother was doing was irresponsible, putting tanks of gas and fast food over and over on a credit card, especially when she had no job and no income. I tried to cost as little as possible every day of my life. But in that moment, I wanted those sweaters so badly and to go to school with something new that I went against my instinct to try to help. And I said, yes, I still want them. I walked into school on that first day with my first striped sweater, the first of 5 that I would continue to rotate and wash on the weekends. And I quickly found out that my fashion epiphany happened only to me. Not one other kid in my school thought that stripes was cool and the only thing to wear. But it was fine with me because I had new clothes and I was so happy about it, even if they were recently stained with guilt. Soon after that, my grandfather called us in for a family meeting. These were a long line of occasional occurrences growing up Mormon, where he is the patriarch of our family of all women, except my little brother, would lecture us literally for hours on all the minutiae of the Book of Mormon and the history of how the Jews became Native American people, all these obscure biblical references that proved whatever he was thinking about at the time. And it was not a lecture that you could say no to, and you had no idea when it would stop. So I sat there patiently, waiting and wondering if this had any sort of direction. And then he made his final point. He was connecting his whole biblical trivia to the actual calendar day that we were experiencing that day. And it had something to do with an old Jewish tradition of forgiveness of debts. My grandfather turned to my mother and announced that because of this biblical reference and his faith as a Mormon, that he was going to pay off every single one of her credit cards in full. I was so happy. I knew that debt was a prison, and I was so happy that my mother was going to be free, that our family was going to be free, and that we would have this fresh start. And he kept his promise and paid off every single one of her cards. And a year from then, we were back with my grandfather hearing a whole new lecture because she had maxed out every single card again.